Mike, till
This
it's
is
their turn. And Soup will explain everything, right? Soup,
yeah. This is
just
the
explain to
state.
everybody the normal way we do.
Yeah, this is the State of America, episode 13. We're going to talk about racism and the murder of Ricky Cobb. But Denise is here with us, so we're going to let her speak first and talk about what happened with her daughter Leah. So we'll give her the floor.
Hey, how are you?
Hey.
Um, on July 19th of 2020, my daughter was found hung in Houston. I was not informed until July 23rd. You're making noise. Sorry. I was not informed until July 23rd. And how I was informed is I woke up to a text message that read, "They told me your daughter has died." That was from my daughter's ex-girlfriend who had my telephone number, who knew my daughter passed on the 19th. And um, my husband called the police. The police said they confirmed it. They were looking at a file and that she hung herself with a sheet and left no note. That's all they told us. Then after that, the coroner's office called, and the coroner stated that my daughter came out of her apartment with a backpack, Nike slide-on shoes, walked upstairs barefooted, hung herself with her fitted bed sheet, and left no note. And my problem with that is my daughter's apartment door was locked. There was no dirt on her feet. The sheet they said she used was cut. They don't have a copy of the sheet. She's also hanging holding a cell phone in her hand. And I have all this evidence that is incriminating the ex-girlfriend. I'm not saying that she specifically did this to my daughter, but I'm saying that she set my daughter up and that she has knowledge of what happened to my daughter because we did a candlelight visual in Houston, and right after the candlelight visual, 5 minutes later, she didn't show up, the ex-girlfriend. And when I left 5 minutes later, she called asking questions because she had someone there that was like spying. So she started asking me questions, and then she called another girl there asking questions. Only a guilty person is going to do that. And I just have all this evidence that she did it. I believe that the police were paid off. And I believe that one of the girls, Sarat, her mother is a Christian playwright or producer there in Houston. And I believe she's the one that paid the police off to protect her daughter, Sarat, because I believe Sarat's the one that did this to my daughter. And I just believe that she paid the police off because of if the case is closed and has never been open, how come every time I call homicide, I have to speak to this one same officer every single time? I can't speak to nobody else. And if I try to, they make me talk to him. Why? It's like he's told them that, oh, if she calls, I got to speak to her. So I believe he was paid off, and I believe that she had the means to do it. And the reason why I think that also is because I'm 47. When I was 17 years old, I got sexually harassed when I was going to night school by the superintendent and the security guard. I told on them, and I guess I was the last. There was other girls that I told, but I was like the last one. They was tired of hearing it. Um, so the superintendent, he paid me off $5,000 to say I was not telling the truth, and I didn't do it for the money. He did it. He also said that he would get my boyfriend at the time got caught with the triple beam scale in his trunk of his car, and that was a case. And he said he would get the case to disappear, and he did. He did, and he just worked for the school. So she works for a school, and she has means. She's well known in Houston, so I know she paid him off. But that's basically the gist of my story. If you want to see more, I'm on TikTok under Justice for Aaliyah, or Facebook group Justice for Aaliyah Wilson.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your story. It's it's how long has it been now that since Aaliyah passed away?
It's been 3 years now.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's absolutely ridiculous.
Yep. And I got proof in black and white that it's being covered up. Aaliyah wrote a statement May 4th of 2020. She wrote a statement saying that she was talking about she was putting up with abuse for 2 years with the ex-girlfriend. She said the ex-girlfriend came to her house and bit her finger to where she could barely move it. And then at the end of the letter, she told a story that someone came into her house through the window last night. Well, how come the hospital record is dated April 30th, 2020, and it says that she went into the hospital for pain to extremities, which could mean anything, I know. But yet she told the nurse the same story. Somebody came in through my window last night. How she knows somebody is coming through her window a month ahead of time? And that's in black and white to show you that the hospital covers up.
Yeah. So, like, tonight's podcast, we're talking about racism in America. And do you think this would have had, like, the police would have taken this long if Aaliyah was white? Because do you think there's any discrimination there?
Yes, I do, because I feel that they seen a black girl hanging and they automatically was like, oh, suicide, because they asked no questions. They did not follow their like the coroner. They didn't follow their policy and procedures, which is to see how her demeanor was before the incident. They were supposed to ask the neighbors questions and stuff, and that's in their policy and procedures, and they didn't follow them. And I feel that's because they just seen a black girl hanging, and yeah. So it's crazy. And just like they made up this lynching law, I guess to make people happy, like, oh, people that are hung, we're gonna lynching law. Well, if you make up this lynching law, how come everybody you find hung, it's a suicide? So it's crazy.
I don't understand how people are supposed to just, how everyone's just hanging themselves. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, does anyone else have any questions for Denise about her daughter?
I don't have any questions, but I want to say, I'm so sorry
Thank
that
you.
this is happening. And, I also lost my brother, to police brutality. And I'll talk about that later when it's my turn, but
I'm sorry about that.
and it's resonating to me, and you've come to the right place if you need support, because I'm here to support you. I think we are here to support you, but I won't speak on behalf of anybody else. But I'm very sorry that this happened.
Thank you. Sorry about your brother also.
Not really.
Thank you.
Neither. May her memory forever.
What? I can barely hear you, Clarissa.
I said, may her memory forever be a blessing to you.
Oh.
May you remember the good things and not the bad. She knew all. The same for you.
She said, make her memory a blessing to you.
May her memory be a blessing.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Well, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to say about it. I don't have any more questions, but yeah.
Well, to me, it's just crazy. Just one more thing I want to tell you. The police report. At the beginning of this, I talked to a Lieutenant Sweet, And I told him, look, you need to ask questions. I didn't feel my daughter did this. And he called and told me that they had an eyewitness that the ex-girlfriend busted on my daughter's window. He called and gave me autopsy results. He is nowhere listed in my police report. Nothing I told him. The ex-girlfriend busting out the window, none of that is listed in the police report. But what this Officer Morrison, that I know is paid off, put in the police report on March 25th of 2022, 2 years later, he put a phone call that he got from a lady named Anna off of Facebook, who I was on Facebook calling a fraud, saying she stole my money, which I did do. But he added that to my daughter's police report. He was trying to come after me because he told her, well, send me any evidence that she's defaming you.
The point of them coming after you is what? To get you to shut up so that you won't cause problems for them because they didn't do their job.
Right.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous. Houston Police Department. It's terrible.
Yes, they are.
They're not the only department though.
Right.
David, we can't hear you if you're trying to talk.
Oh, he's muted.
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, if there's anything you can do, or anything we can do, just reach out to us. We'll do what we can to help.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. I think we're gonna continue on with the podcast, unless you have anything else to say.
No, I'm good. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll watch. Thank you.
All right. Yep. Thank you.
I'm not sure how to end it.
Oh, bottom right corner.
Let's
Should be
see.
able to.
Wait. I see. I don't see it.
Oh.
I shouldn't say leave or something.
Let's see if I can help you.
Okay.
Yeah, the leave button.
Here we go.
I don't see a leave button. I see a mute, start video, participate.
I got it. All right. She was welcome to stay if she wanted to. I just by the way, but anyways, let's yeah, I wanted to let her have her space because that's really important. She's been working on this. I mean, she's been fighting this for 3 years now, so it's important that she gets her chance to speak. Yeah. So anyways, let's go ahead and do introductions. We kind of skipped that. So Clarissa, can you tell us about yourself? Where you're from? Like.
I'm. My first word ever was water. The first time I moved away from Flint, came back. Why are you back? My answer was Ben. Something in the water. So you might say my name should be Cassandra, because there is something in the water. It's called penis.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
David, do you want to give us an introduction?
Hi there, welcome everybody. This is David Allen Moon from Dave Moon TV. My Indian name is Yakin Lanala, which means wealthy whale. I'm from the west coast of colonial British Columbia. I do research. I do a little bit of streaming, but mostly researching and verifications. I'm an advocate for proper information, justice, equality. I try to battle misinformation and all that stuff going out on the internet. And I'm just here to listen and learn, and also spread story about my late stepbrother who was killed by police in 1992. I can get into details later. Thank you.
And then Matthew, do you want to go ahead and give us an introduction?
All right. Hi, my name is Matt. I am an activist out in Massachusetts, and I have been combating racism and police brutality since 2020. And I had some news I wanted to bring up. There was a article I found out about how our former county sheriff is now the front runner of Trump's 2024 re-election campaign in Massachusetts. I think it's ridiculous because he lost to another guy in a sheriff election, and now he wants to join another loser to push him to the top.
Wait, your mayor?
It's just crazy.
You said your mayor?
Former sheriff.
Former sheriff? Oh, okay.
Yeah. He in 2021 he was assisting I think Greg Abbott at the border in Mexico, keeping all the migrants out.
So a stellar individual.
Wow. Yeah.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was hoping we would have more speakers tonight, but we'll just make do with what we have. So our first subject, and if we're doing it in order, our first subject is racism in America, which is that's a very loaded subject. Yeah.
That's the whole show, right?
Right. There you go. Yeah. That's.
It'll take a couple of hours.
Yeah. Like, where do we start? I don't know. Like, we could be more specific than that, I guess. You know, I don't know. You guys, we could talk about the history of racism, or we could talk about, how, talk about slavery, how, black people had absolutely no rights and Jim Crow laws. Wherever, I don't know. What do you guys want to say about racism in America? Go ahead.
Hey, that's got some, I was born in Mexico, so I'm and I came here as an 8-year-old, and my mother is, one of those fish to and I'm the darkest person in my life. I arrived here in 1974 as an 8-year-old to hear a lot of N-word being used by my family members when I was a kid. And unironically, as opposed to that, I would turn to them and say, that's not a nice word as an 8-year-old. So, I got a lot of blowback from my own family and was really not accepted very well by them. And so to me, it's not just racism the whole country. It's like I grew up experiencing that in my home from my own family. So it's got a whole nother level. And I've had to basically cut that side of the family off because some of them are voting for Trump, and that means that they don't believe I should exist. As far as I'm concerned, that's how they're feeling, because they want things to go back to the time when women didn't have any rights, where people of color didn't have any rights, and the only people that benefited.
So it sounds like you grew up with a lot of racism then. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really.
And from the start, I was like, no, that's not the. I fought them from the very beginning, and that's the thing that they didn't really like. And I've always been the black sheep, and not just because I'm brown, but because I didn't get the program. And I always question everything.
That's good. you should you should question everything.
Yes,
And
I absolutely agree.
we can hear you a little better now, but you were cutting out earlier. Just so you
It's this headset. It's a wireless headset, so
know. Oh,
I've got it turned up as loud as it'll go. So hopefully that'll be
yeah. You might just have to move it closer to your mouth, but I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully it works. Um, does anybody else want to speak about like their personal experiences or their thoughts on racism in America, whether it's in regards to the police or
Well, you
slavery?
pick. Who's first? Matt can go first. I'm ready now, but I'm just boiling up.
I'm trying to think of a good experience to use. Oh well, here's one I can say that as an ally and an activist, I've experienced how the system oppresses us in the same regards that they do to Black Americans. When I was arrested and brought into the police station in 2021 for a protest arrest, where officers told me to remain on a sidewalk while I was protesting, and I was being pushed off the sidewalk by Trump supporters. I got arrested for that because I didn't follow his orders, even though there was no possible way for me to do so safely in that instance. So they decided to
They
make an
don't care.
example. They decided to make an example of me, bring me into the front of the police station, have every officer rank and file in the lobby to stare at me as they brought me into a holding cell. I wish I had a phone. I wish I had a phone and like a camera to record that, because that would have been some crazy footage for a protester to be brought into a police station, into a holding cell, having every single officer in the entire department around them. Like one of the biggest scare tactics I've ever seen in my life. Literally.
So yeah,
Did you guys hear all that?
you got you got ch- you got charged at one point for like protesting. I remember.
Yeah. The first one was for I got arrested and charged, I think, twice or three times for protesting, and they were all non-violent charges. I think the first one was for disorderly conduct, and then the second one I got was for assisting somebody in burning a thin blue line flag in front of the police station.
Oh wow. I
I
mean,
think it was two.
John
Yeah.
Lewis said get into good trouble. So yeah, I guess just fine by perspective too. Uh, you know, but did you end up beating the charges or did you end up going to jail? I can't
Yeah, I
remember.
did. I ended up getting them dropped, but it took a while. And the thing I can say about racism in America is I wasn't the only person being arrested and charged that day. There was a person of color that was also arrested and charged. And the thing is, they fought their charges for almost 2 years later. I got mine dropped in about 4 to 5 months.
Oh
So
wow.
that
And they
shows
got
you how.
charged.
Yep, and that's sat on their record. It's still on their record, even
Of
though they
course.
beat the charges.
Of course.
Yep. I was
You're
also
on the
released.
list now.
I was also released faster than that person of color when we both got locked up together. Figure that one out.
You probably got your first phone call right away.
Yep.
And they probably, no, we don't have any phones available for you now till tomorrow.
Yep. And anytime I needed something when I was in that cell, the guards for the most part gave it to me. The other person, nope, they neglected.
Yep.
If that's not a perfect example of how racism in America is when you're incarcerated, by the way, I don't know what else would be.
And our prison system is designed to make animals out of you. If you're not an animal when you go in, you will be like that. That's it. It's designed to dehumanize, humiliate. That's how they teach it. biggest secret that's not so secret is that the music and media industry,
It's like a secret society that thinks they're secret, but everybody knows.
are all invested in the private prisons in the United States. That's where they're making most of their money from their investments, is from private prisons. So when you see all this media out there glorifying the gangster life,
Like the amount of
go
police
against the
officers,
law,
the amount of police
right?
officers that were in that lobby when I was arrested and brought in that time reminded me of like when a cop dies and they have so many cops filling the streets. It's like the same
Right.
amount.
They're gonna make you do the walk of shame in front of all those cops because you stupid white boy, you're out here, protesting for these people.
And anybody that's white and like fights against police brutality and against racism, you got to pat yourselves on the back, because back in the 60s or 70s, they used to kill us too.
Yeah, the only reason they don't now is because the media don't have it.
Yep.
They don't care
true.
if you kill a person of color, but damn, if you kill a white person, they're gonna go and make sure that cop gets the chair.
Yep.
I can also say that I've dealt with some racism at being a Jewish person. That's been going on since I was in elementary school. Like, kids would just think it's funny to be racist at that time. They don't really understand the weight of what they're saying. So like, they would
That's because they hear that shit at home.
Yeah,
That's
true.
They learn that at home. They hear that at home when they shouldn't be listening to shit. And then they take it to school, and then they get in trouble for saying that racist shit when their parents were trying to say it right.
Exactly.
Well, David, did you have anything else to say as an Indigenous person?
Are you kidding me? I could talk about this forever and ever.
Oh, geez, the RCMP. How long shall we talk about them?
Yeah. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police. It's a national police force up here. I'm not going to get into them. I'll talk about America first. You know where racism comes from? Political Cheeto type people like Donald Trump drinking Kool-Aid, spreading the Kool-Aid, the hate Kool-Aid around, I call it. So all his little minions out there, and then they spread this on to their kids to indoctrinate them, and also, preach this toxic, separatist, pompous bullshit that they have. In Canada, for instance, when I was about 11, I didn't understand it at the time, but this girl that wasn't Indigenous, I don't know, had an issue with me, and she called me a savage, right? I'm like, savage? The fuck you talking about? Like, I didn't understand it at the time, but now I realize, that this is, like you guys said earlier, it's passed on. It's intergenerational. It's soaking in our politics. These politicians don't say it outrightly, but they're showing those pressure points about it. It's accepting it. Like I'm starting to get worried that there's people and groups and these they're terrorists. They're treacherous terrorists in Canada and in the US that think that freedom of speech includes hate speech, includes able to talk to BIPOC and minorities in a certain way on the internet and elsewhere. I live in a place called Powell River, named after Israel Powell, who is a former Indian agent. So, and guess what? I got so much hate and blowback from chuds that live in this local town that want to keep the name Powell River. And they've already passed it through the provincial legislation. The province is like a state. to you guys in the United States. But anyways, it's been passed in legislation. I now live in a territory. It is now called Cothet Territory, Qathet. Some of these Cheds are probably watching us right now. Hi guys. Hi. Anyways, yeah, a lot of them are still alive, and a lot of them are, old boomers that don't know shit from Sunday, and they still think that there's no harm in a Indian agent name. I want my Powell River city to stay the same, right? And it ain't gonna happen. And yeah, a lot of them are spreading hate on me. Some of you guys are aware of the criminal case that I'm going through with one of them. We're not going to talk about it because it's getting dropped and thrown out because of the fact that they don't have any evidence other than what was on Facebook. And most of the evidence is actually him. And I'm not going to get into that. So, but I'm just going to wait for it to go away. But don't feed the trolls, you guys. I don't know how many times I need to tell you, like racism is spread by these chuds and trolls on the internet. And all they want to do is get you guys banned. They want you to not have access to spreading your verified proper information, like the stuff that's been going on. I was banned for 90 days over and over because I kept responding to the trolls. So don't feed the trolls.
Facebook prisoner right here. Repeat offender.
Me too. Yeah, I should get a tattoo.
They want to silence your
Look at my
voice.
prison tattoo.
When you
Everyone knows
engage
me.
with them
Got
and
the
they can
6
report
page
you,
record for Facebook.
when they can engage with you and report you, because they got their feelings hurt, and they get you silenced, they've won.
Well, yeah, they'll get you in court
to get
too.
your information out. Yeah, well.
And they're going to try to make you look like the bad guy. They're going to try to make you look like the terrorist when they're the ones spreading all the hate and misinformation and mocking the local indigenous communities, not giving any
You know why
land.
they do that?
Right.
Shall I go on?
You know why they do that? Because they know the system will give them the upper hand to do it.
Because they want to put me, they want to shoot for me and have a criminal record on me. And it didn't work. Try, chuds.
Fuck that.
Well, the whole police enforcement in the United States is piggybacked on the back of slavery, because we didn't really have a police force per se in every town until the Fugitive Slave Act. And then it was like, oh, we have to track down all this property that ran away. And it started in the South, in the slave-holding states, and then spread to the North when they figured out that the slaves were going to the North. They didn't have to go chase them down there.
Exactly. Let's jump into police brutality and slavery, but I'll let Soup do the helm because he's the captain, not me.
All right. Well, we can continue.
Unless you want me to do it.
Okay, so hey guys, are you ready for the next part?
Yeah, I'm done for now for the racism part.
Okay, the Ricky Cobb part. This part is the part that trigger warning for the video, because it is going to trigger people who are sensitive to this kind of stuff. I mean, it's probably going to trigger us too. So
yeah.
Stay sensitive. But I'm going to go ahead
a
and
human being dies in that video. Yeah.
Play the Ricky Cobb video, and this is the Minnesota State Patrol that ends up shooting Ricky Cobb. You guys see it okay?
On Zoom, I gotta go borrow another phone so I can see the stuff on the platform, but that's okay. I can look later.
Well, it's 22 minutes, so you have time.
Awesome, thanks.
So this is the initial traffic stop.
Y'all keep it a buck with me, bro. But if y'all can go some funny shit with me, y'all can take me right now.
Hand me the keys.
Call my attorney.
You hand me the keys.
Hand me my keys.
Hand me the keys to the vehicle. Hand me the key to the vehicle. Just hand me the key. Yep, okay. Yep. Yep. We're already past that. So like I said, you need to step out of the vehicle.
Okay, we passed that, so where we at though?
Okay. You need to step out of the vehicle.
So where are we at though?
And I'm gonna explain it all when you step out.
But when you say step out of the vehicle, you can
Yes.
explain it to
This
me.
is not a lawful.
No, it's-
This, hey, man, you didn't see the court.
So he drives off.
Hi everyone, Mark Barden here at Sandy Hook
Oh.
Promise. On December 14th, 2012, my 7-year
We're getting some ads here.
Game. You're not ready for.
Stay with me, man.
Trying to get back to.
45 Metro vehicles taken out.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. We're already past that. So like I said, you need to step out of the vehicle.
Okay, we passed that, so where we at though?
Okay. You need to step out of the vehicle.
So where are we at though?
And I'm gonna explain it all when you step out.
But when you say step out of the vehicle, you can
Yes.
explain it to
This
me.
is not a lawful.
No, it's-
This, hey, man, you didn't see the court.
Get out of the car! Oh. 45 Metro vehicles taken out.
So they get into there.
Yes, you can
She's
pursue.
up.
State patrols with patch with LTAC 2 for pursuit with shots fired. Westbound 94 from Dowling, David Boyd.
Yeah,
Frank
video's
Ford.
not playing.
It's on the live stream.
60 minutes of the car stop, 40 seconds. Car stop, 40 seconds.
Go to the family soup.
Here, swing around the other side.
Yep.
Here, she's holding that gunpoint. She's holding that gunpoint.
Hey, man. Hey, stay with me, man.
Stay with
Hey,
me.
stay with me.
I need this. Alright. My way. My way.
Stay with me, man. Hey. All right, I'm gonna grab my med bag.
You can clear for that call that just came out. We're good here. We're good. Locate it. Yep, good morning.
Looking for his med kit.
I need something.
So they shot him.
Is he breathing?
That's a copy.
All right.
What did you say?
Give me scissors. Scissors.
There's that for.
Scissors. Scissors.
I don't see scissors in here.
473 to 2502. Would you like Eastside 12 to respond to this?
What's going on?
You want a bandage?
I wish I'm not a paramedic, but
You want a want bandage?
That's far.
No, I need anybody else's car.
No, we're good.
You got scissors? In my bag.
I don't have
Right here,
scissors.
cut it.
There's a reason that they blurred him so much. He's probably covered in blood at this point. I mean, just completely covered in blood after they shot him.
Cut it. Cut. Okay. I got one to the shoulder.
Two. Three.
Hold on.
Two to the.
Let's roll right. Puts in his back.
Here, cut his back. We have one on the left leg cheek.
Okay.
Does somebody have
I don't see
extra
any
gloves?
real blood coming out.
Hold on. Give me some gauze. Give me some gauze. I don't have a pulse. I'm gonna start CPR.
CPR forward.
You have an AED?
Go again.
Yep.
I do. Go
So yeah, you can see they're performing CPR at this point in the video.
grab one.
This is body camera 2. So I think there's 4 body cameras. So again, this is the initial stop.
You need some stuff to talk about, y'all. From taking the job of what? No. Can I call my attorney right now? Hey, this ain't no funny shit. But if y'all talking about that shit with Terry Young, hold on. Is it a warrant? Hold on. Hold on, is y'all finna get on some funny shit with me? Y'all keep it a buck with me, bro. But if y'all finna get on some funny shit with me, y'all can tell me right now, so I can call my attorney.
So right here, you can see that Ricky Cobb is saying, "Do you have a warrant? Do you have a warrant?" Because I mean, which he has the right to do. He has the right to question why they're stopping him at this point.
Hang my keys. So where are we at then? But when you say step out of the vehicle, you gonna explain to me, and then y'all
Get out of the car now!
That's one of the troopers that fell.
Yo, you can't see nothing, Soup.
Can't see anything?
No. I know we're talking about Ricky, but I don't see nothing on the screen but his apparently the Soup TV logo.
What?
Yeah, that's all I'm seeing too.
Okay, I thought I wasn't going crazy, so I just wanted to
no.
make sure. I'm
Maybe
glad
we
I
got
spoke up
Maybe we got
then.
a violation.
What part of the video did you show? Because yeah,
The
there's
whole
some of
thing?
that they. Oh yeah, they blocked you already then.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah, you can't show that. You guys, so you should have cut it right before. So what you should have did is right before you showed the shooting, is you should have put your like the trademark or something over it, background,
Oh.
so that it wouldn't be copyrighted. Yeah, because they've been taking the video down
Damn, that's
left and right.
so we could start.
Are you still live?
Yeah, it says Matthew, do you see it?
Maybe they won't strike
YouTube.
you. Quickly put another one up.
Right.
On my screen.
How you doing, David Allen Moon?
What's up, David? It says 5 people are watching.
He's muted.
Yo, what's up, Chaz?
Yo, what up? Yo, but the whole even thing about Ricky, because, you know, me being from Minneapolis, and I'll just get into it, you know, for me, like what people don't understand is what they show you from the body cam footage. They show you at 2:15 a.m. in the morning, right? The original stop, the original pullover from the state trooper happened at 1:50 a.m. That's 25 minutes of an altercation, right? Of interaction. Not even an altercation, an interaction between law enforcement and an individual. And who's to say what happened? Because what we seen in the body cam was 3 officers. Why did they need that many troopers for one person? What happened prior to the time that they started showing us the body cam footage? And a still photo of the brake lights or anything not working or the tail lights not working, because in the footage you can see the tail lights working. And I know this is because they had an event today up in the cities. But my thing of it is like, I just really want people to really think of, what are we doing? Are we going to continue doing the same old thing from 2020? Because people got to go back in history and understand why we got here. How did we get here? And it's because, first of all, we're allowing people to talk for us instead of talking up for ourselves. This isn't activism, and it's about being a celebrity. It's about making sure that the people that are being affected are being heard the most. Not that people know our names, that people know these impacted families' names. You know what I'm saying? I could care less that my name is known, because why does it matter if our name is known, but we're not getting no justice for these families? We're not getting no change for it not to happen again. You know what I'm saying? And it's something that it's crazy, because I'm glad David Allen Moon is on here, because there's a guy running for president. His name is the hooded candidate, and it's crazy because he brings up Turtle Island about being a sovereign nation. And that's what, if we go back to the Declaration of Independence and the preamble and all of that, that's why I came on here tonight, to talk about Ricky Cobb, but to even go in deeper, because I know Mr. David Allen Moon TV knows about Mr. Turtle Island, and I would like to learn about Turtle Island, because from my understanding of going back in history, that's what leads us to the future and going forward, is going back to Turtle Island.
Right.
Okay. There's some stuff to talk about.
It looks
Yep.
like it's still up.
Great, Chad.
Stream's still up. I don't know.
Yes.
Never.
Okay, go ahead. Just
No.
Somebody
I'll
internet
call my
bogus.
attorney right now. Hey, this ain't no funny shit.
Okay.
But if y'all talking about that shit with Terry Young,
But you have to step out, okay?
hold on, is it a warrant?
No, it's not a warrant. I need you to step out there.
Hold on.
I'll explain it all out when you get out of the car.
Hold on, is y'all finna get on some funny
Matthew,
shit?
can you see the
Y'all
stream?
keep it a buck with me, bro. But if y'all finna get on some funny
Yeah,
shit,
I can see it.
y'all can tell me like
We
On
still-
Facebook, it just keeps showing the ground with the body cam just sitting there against the grass. That's all I see
Oh, then you guys are behind.
Can y'all keep it a buck with me, bro? Y'all pull me over my
on
headlights.
Facebook. That is
Yep.
our
Yes,
favorite,
then.
the very best, crappiest fucking
Okay, we're past
social
that.
networking out there.
Okay. You need to step out of the vehicle.
So
I've
we're
never been
back.
banned on any of the other networks, just on
But when
Facebook.
you say step
Not
out,
once have
step out,
I'm on like
basically-
6 or 7 other fucking, excuse me, I'm swearing. I'm on 6 or 7 other different social networks. Never been banned once. Couple warnings, but that's it. Nothing serious. But Facebook seems to hate me.
Facebook.
Us, I mean. But Chaz, you're muted, so you got to turn your mic back on. So I'll reiterate as a response to what he was saying.
Right. I didn't even say it that way.
We're going to learn about Turtle Island. Quite basically, we're all going to learn from each other and all the teachings. We're going to start doing land recognition and find out what territories of indigenous people we live around. We're going to try to learn the cultures and just dig in and start getting some knowledge from the elders before they pass away. Get the information from your elders as well, and just get educated on what's properly going on. We can jump down rabbit holes and blame left, right, liberals, conservatives, whatever you want, but we
Right.
can basically work a new reform political system where I mean, like Chaz said, like we're watching people die. Nothing's changed. And we've got body cams, and Matt's right. It's not really changing.
You
He told me
know,
that before, and he's right. It's sort of changing, but it's sort of not. We still have to reform the laws to make it so, like I said, people are burying, like moms are burying their children. That's the biggest issue I have.
you know,
Marginalized communities are being ignored. The corporate elite gets to have all the gravies. Let me talk about these incidents that are happening. Would the police perform in this way if they were up in Manhattan and the richest district? Oh fuck no! They'd carry out all these police policies and investigations in a proper way. The victim's mom we talked to earlier in the show. It sounds like there's some police corruption going on down there. It sounds like she needs to get a lawyer. It sounds like
you know, it's
something really
crazy though.
bad's
We don't
going on.
need. That's the crazy thing. We don't need lawyers. What we need are paralegals. Because what I want people to
Paralegal, right?
understand is, we paralegals are the ones that do the real work, right? Paralegals are the ones that write the motions, do the research. That we need more paralegals in this movement. Way more paralegals.
Well,
Because
that's
if
what
we
I
had
meant.
more,
Yeah.
yeah, no, because no, and I'm not trying to correct anybody because I'm learning myself. And see, when I stopped doing this, listening to all these wannabe so-called who want to be leaders, and listen to the people that nobody listened to, because obviously they ain't listening to them for a reason. It's because they out here telling the truth. They out here busting up these so-called lies, right? Because Minnesota is passing bills that literally would not have saved a mere lock, but yet people are out celebrating.
Oh yeah,
I
I
will
haven't looked.
never, I will never understand that. You know what I'm saying? Because all you got to do is look at the legislation on that no knock with exceptions bill, right? All you got to look at, and then go look at Amir's crime. Go look at why they had, not even Amir, go look at Makai Speed's crime, why they had the warrant, right? His cousin, go look at why they had the warrant. And the crime, why they was looking for Makai, is on there. They would have been able to do the same thing. See, what we should have been doing is, why did they redact the video and edit the audio, right? See, people weren't asking the right questions. They were, we were so quick to get that, oh, we want this, we want that, and we didn't get it. Because if we would have paralegals, people got to understand this. If we don't, these families, they only have a year to get charges on these cops because of qualified immunity. If they doesn't get that year, there's none. And people just seen what Cordell Handy, literally $11.5 million, but that officer is still on the streets being a police officer. What kind of justice is that? Because he can literally do it to the next black man, the next Native man, the next Hispanic man, the next Asian man, the next white man. That's not accountability. That's compensation.
Right? Yep. Which video did they mess with the video and audio?
Man,
What
Amir Locke, man.
Beard
This
Lock?
is the thing of it is. Yes, because you know
If
what's
you want
crazy
to put
is
that in a crazier term that most people do understand, that's contract killing.
conspiracy theory.
It's contract killing because they get paid.
Right.
They're paying out.
And it's crazy because if people would really just do their own research and look up what a nonprofit industrial complex is, you'll literally see it. Because Joe Biden, Donald Trump, it doesn't matter who it is, they don't rule shit. They're literally a CEO of a corporation, because that's what America is. We're a corporation. We're also a country, but we're a corporation. And people got to look that up, because we can't fight. We don't need civil rights attorneys to sit here and go fight for our rights, right? Because the Sixth Amendment gives us that right to go fight against tyranny, against the government, right? When they get out of control. But if people, they don't want us to do that. They don't want people united. They don't want us. They want us around here divisive, arguing and debating over goofy ass shit, so that we're miles and miles and miles away from the goal line. Right,
True.
right.
Welcome, Zahira.
That's true. Like, wasn't it the CIA that infiltrated like groups back in the day, trying to cause?
You know,
What was
I,
talk about?
You,
COINTELPRO.
COINTELPRO, yes.
you know what's crazy? I'm gonna drop some knowledge on y'all, right? Because I want y'all,
And
if
it's
anybody's
crazy
got
because
their
the
computer,
corporations are getting bailed out too.
right? If anybody's got their computer available to go look up something, right? I want y'all to go look up something. So, and tell me I'm lying. So, if you look back at the Black Panthers and Fred Hampton and Malcolm X, after they got rid of them, and then you had the rise up of what we consider now gangs. You had the Bloods, the Crips, Vice Lords, GDs, right? But then once that fanned over the crack era, that died down. You know, you had the little violence era. Then you had all these little violence interrupter groups, right? But if you go look at their mission statements or their vision, right, and you mix and scramble the words, what do you come up with? It's the same shit that the gangs did. Their bylaws. People got to understand and read that there ain't shit that has ever changed in America, man. The same programs that they took from the Black Panthers, they took the gangs over, and now they're pastors, they're CEOs of nonprofits, and yet they out here talking about they for us for the people, and we the government allows that, and yet we say it. Listen to these words, right? They call us products of our environments, right? But what other product do we know other than what's in our environment? And who puts them products in our environments? Right? The government. The whole time, all of this has been designed for poor people to keep on being poor, right? Because politicians aren't elected, they're selected to be elected.
By their lobbyists, of course.
Hmm. If it don't make dollars, it don't make sense.
But Sahara's been here, and now I think they left. I was trying to get the intro in, but maybe they cut out. But welcome, Sahara, right, Sue?
Yeah. I'm still watching. I still have this video on the screen. I'm gonna close it because it's pretty much over with. And as far as I know, we're still live, you guys.
Yeah, I saw part of that beginning of the video, and one of the shots, the camera, the officer had his hand over the camera, and it was while he was chasing after the car after it drove off. And when you have the cameras, but you don't have laws that say you can't deliberately block the camera or turn off the camera, and they do that all the time. They turn away from the person that they're supposed to talk, or they accidentally cover the camera lens so that it can't capture the done while it might still capture the audio. Because you can get around a lot of things with the audio. Because, don't have any video to go back it up. So, just having the cameras isn't going to do that. And, just as a little side note here, the United States is the only major city of the world. He's not also a super. And if you've ever read the document, you know why. Because we don't have those rights. They don't want.
Yeah, if they're gonna have body cameras, they should be live streamed, like literally live streamed to the point where you can't turn it on or
With
off.
people monitoring them live.
Yep.
Time.
And they could
Transparency, right?
Yeah, right. They could hire tech support or whatnot for that, even. Like there could be a fix for that. It's like they're just like taking what they think is gonna satisfy the public, a test run, and running with it. Even when people say, "Well, no, there's problems with that." No, well, you get what we give you.
Right.
Right. You should shut up now. We gave you what you wanted.
Yeah, highway cams. I didn't say highway cams. I said I want body cams, and I want it live streamed so we can watch them. Just like public record. If they're not doing anything wrong, then they shouldn't have any problems with that. And you know what Canada says? Oh, we don't have any money. They have money for all these cams to go over highways. Then they should be able to find a way to get these body cams that you can't fuck with them. You can't and you can't interfere with them, which should be a charge as well. If you're a police officer interfering, it's obstruction of justice. Throw the book at them too. And like I said, it's a pretty lame excuse to say they don't have any money for body cams up here.
It's
I
evidence
find that
tampering. It's evidence tampering too.
Yes, it is. And then to touch on what Chaz was saying about, things that were as a result of the murder of
We can't hear you.
we have a whole war on drugs, and there is declassified material available right now. But the whole purpose of it was to criminalize black people so that they had an excuse to incarcerate them. And then they flooded the streets with heroin. And you had all these, kilos of heroin coming in body bags. And then that was followed by cocaine that went into crack.
We can't really hear you, by the way. So I'll missed all that.
My mic turned up as loud as I can. I'm sorry.
We always need to remember and keep in the back of our heads, it's about hatred and racism, but it's also about making money for them. If it wasn't profitable, they wouldn't do it. But the fact that it's hateful is an added bonus.
Right.
Yes.
And so hey Jimmy Spice Curry, welcome to today's podcast.
Welcome.
Do you want to give us a brief introduction?
Yeah. By the way, earlier I was logged on to my designer's account, Sahara, so I came under my name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm typically a multimedia professional, but racism and planet Earth's demise often take the forefront. And so I live in New York, and I have various endeavors I do. I heard both under Sahara's account and under mine. And some quick thoughts. I don't want to take everyone's time. There isn't the infrastructure in place to both empower melanated people in the West, especially, and to save the planet from some of the selfishness that is leading to ecosystem decline and Homo sapien decline. And that infrastructure would have to have a financial, marketing, legal, self-defense, mental health, et cetera, component. So I think different groups of people around the world are working, but there isn't the symbiotic relationship where there's communication and sharing of research and analysis. And if one group needs X, whatever X is in this case, the other groups may say, hey, listen, we can lend you our helicopter for 2 weeks to drop some food in Haiti, some parts, or, and in America, I think it's compounded by the systemic nature of a few hundred years of this system in place. UK has a similar mindset, but their police don't typically shoot people. People there might die from a knife wound. So they're about 80 years, behind us in the use of guns and violence on each other. Yeah, it's going to be tough to solve, but I hope we can solve it. I have children, and I'm hoping these issues for them and other young people, instead of just a legacy of NFTs and bank accounts and a house, you leave a legacy of no racism and less pollution on the planet. And thanks for listening.
Yeah, that would be it. Yeah, thank you. That would be very that would be very nice.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said.
Jimmy Spice Curry brings up some very good points. And it's one thing that I want to talk about is racism, right? Because when we fight racism, we're not just fighting racism. And I want people to understand that, because I put it in, if you go on Facebook, I put a comment, and I want people to realize we're fighting systemic, structural, industrial, right? Organized racism, which goes after practices and patterns of behavior. from the government, right? And legislation, words. So when you just put racism, right, that's individualized. That's individual beliefs. So we have to really structure what we're going after because the whole time, I'll tell you right now, 2020, we ain't been doing nothing but running around in circles because it's all been wordplay. It's all been wordplay since 2020. Maybe in some states it hasn't, but in a lot of states it has because how is it we have officers out here killing people, right? But we literally have innocent black men, black women, brown men, brown women who are innocent and we can prove that they're innocent, but innocence isn't even enough to overturn a conviction. So
It's true.
Like when are we going to finally fight back so that the judicial system is equal and that everything we're seen as equals? Because right now we're not seen as equals, and it's kind of astonishing that the allies aren't trying to change that. They know that, you know, that's the whole thing of it is because if people outreach one, teaching one, and educating one another, we'd be so much further along than where we are. But it's not about educating; it's about we're in the moment. And instead of because you can't move forward without knowing what happened in the past. You can't. You got to know how you got here today. You got to know how you got here today. It's like with a GPS, right? Because if you're going in the wrong direction, what is that GPS going to tell you? It's going to tell you you're going the wrong direction. That's what history tells us. No, nigga, you're going the wrong way. They already tried that route. But we don't see that because, again, we don't know history. And that's one thing that really hurts a lot of things because if people understood that history is the key to the future, just like education is the passport to the future, see, people look at these words all wrong. And I'm gonna leave it at that because I really want to hear what other people have to say, especially Dave, because he's probably over there like, damn, I've been saying this for months and it's finally somebody else coming out and saying it.
White privilege.
No, thank you, Chaz. Like we can go around the horn and come back, and we all have arguments, we all have disagreements, but it makes me happy that we can really start to conduct change when we can move aside and put aside our personal, political, some of the stuff that we believe in, and put that on a pause for really good change, right? And that's where we're here. Like, you know, we have disagreements, we have arguments. Big fucking deal, man. There's moms burying their children. There's what Jimmy said. There's this a bunch of humans standing up for humanity. God, you know, God forbid that. That's a bad thing to some groups out there, and we're part of that. I'm glad that we're here to talk about this. You guys know what the topics are. Soup's brought it up, and I'm ready for the next one. I think we're talking about police brutality right now. My brother was killed in 1992 by police. There wasn't body cams. They claim they chased him into an alleyway, shot him a bunch of times, and then they said he had a gun. Pulled up to his dead corpse and found out it was a cassette Walkman that they said was a gun. No body cams, can't tell. I don't know. You know, I was advocating for body cams until I started seeing a lot of these other cases where there are body cams and there's still no justice. So I don't know where we go from here. Live stream body cams that they can't fuck with. I don't know. Like, it's all so like upsetting to me that, you know, my brother died in 1992, and that's so long ago. And I'm sorry, hardly anything has changed. There's still blue people going around hurting people, and it's not even a black thing. It's not a native thing. It's not a Hispanic thing. It's everybody's problem. There's white people getting killed. There's lots of different people being killed. Do you want to know what the same similarity is in all these police brutality attacks? It's a mental health call, and they don't know how. They don't have any training on psychiatry. They don't have any training. I'm not standing up for them. They need to be trained. We need to come up with a different kind of police officer that just doesn't come in guns blazing, spraying, bonking, hurting, killing people. Like, I don't know, man. I'm getting really frustrated, and I was when I
No,
started,
they're supposed to be
but
GI
nothing's
Joes. They're
Canada has
changed.
the
supposed to
same
be the
problem.
family friend of the heroes.
What?
To be truthful.
We lost you, Chaz.
Hey, Yeah,
He'll
someone
come.
was talking. I was holding off. David, sorry about your brother. I was a child when the police beat me twice. Two different scenarios. As an adult, I'm one of the people that was involved with the Amadou Diallo situation, and I rescued Amadou's shrine and gave it to a brother at Bronx Community College who gave it to Amadou's mother. I've also had positive encounters with law enforcement. I was going to the United Nations, and some officers put me in their car and took me over because I was late. I think it is also a color issue. So just like the rape of women, we could argue that it's a human issue, and that's clearly the main topic. But police brutality in America, the law enforcement was set up to catch slaves. So even though some of the rogue cops do, of course, unfortunately kill white people, Anglo people, the core of a problem is where the focus should be. And if you solve the issue that Blacks and Afro-Latinos encounter, what you'll find is that white victims of brutality would also benefit. Just like if we solve the issue of pollution on the planet, the rest of the animals and living organisms would benefit. I also have a note here. Someone mentioned history. Most people's history only goes back as far as, of course, they've been taught. So for some people, it's maybe 2 generations. Very few people go back to Kemet or Nubia. And some people don't even believe we're all from the same place. Some people claim from other places. So when you talk to them to solve the problem, they're talking about things that aren't backed by science, but are backed by philosophy and ideology and dogma and power.
Like flat Earth? Like flat Earth? Sorry, I didn't mean to say that.
Yeah. Some people think because of their religious foundation that the earth is flat. And even though I can respect that conclusion, it's preposterous given the fact that we have proven that the earth is actually a sphere, almost like a little flattish basketball. It's not a perfect sphere. But that's what one of the problems is. Power, I put in my notes, police brutality is about power. Racism is about power at the end of the day. The slave master wanted power. He didn't want just cotton. He wasn't in love. Oh, I just love me some cotton. No, he wanted power. Police brutality is about power. The groups in power allow this type of brutality to occur. In my notes, I have public relations. Many Anglo people are public relations colleagues of Black people. They're not really, some of them, down for the full. Now, there are some that are. In my circle, I have maybe 3 out of 3,000. Just like most men talk about sexism, but they're public relations, most men. They're not really down with the women. I'm not talking the abortion issue or anything. I'm just talking the right of a woman is very important for me. I'm not a public relations. I'm with it, with my women in my circle. I have another quick note about, it's a Black thing. I think that if we look at black, white, red, yellow, they're actually racist terms that have become popularized. But in actuality, we're Celts, or we're Nubians, or we're Apache, Comanche, Navajo, or before that, we crossed the Bering Strait to come into this land about 12,000 years ago. So the more knowledgeable people are, the deeper the solutions are. And then we see, oh, wow, this is what's been going on in some cases for 2, 3, 4,000 years. And in some cases, only for 400, 500 years. Thanks for listening. Great discussion.
Oh,
Thanks. Look up the RCMP. You'll find out what they're what they're made for. And just like what Jimmy was saying, there's power, and you got to control that power. And the RCMP, which is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the national police force up here, they were up here to actually guard the Klondike gold diggers, protecting them from the indigenous people. That's what the RCMP was created for. So basically, similar to chasing slaves in America, it's just keeping control of the BIPOC, keeping them in their lane.
yeah. I like that he went into the history of racism as well, because that's something that we wanted to talk about, is the history of racism when it comes to slavery as well. So I think that's an important topic.
Well, slavery goes back several thousand years.
And in the American history in North America goes back about 500 years for when the first Spanish and Portuguese traders brought Africans from Africa to North America to work in their farms because they were killing off the indigenous people with the smallpox.
Yes. Yeah. And then people try to water that down and then try to say, oh, like the indigenous people in America, they died because of other diseases
that was deliberate biological warfare on the part of the Europeans once they found out the susceptibility of the indigenous people. And the reason that the English who came to settle North America found that the Massachusetts Bay Area was almost depopulated was because the smallpox had spread from Mexico to North America that quickly through the indigenous population that all the people that had been inhabiting that area had pretty much died off. Because they talk about in the history books of them finding entire villages with unburied dead. And
90% of the indigenous were killed by smallpox.
Ron DeSantis is trying to justify slavery and saying things like, oh, hey, like slavery is a good thing because they learned trades. How to do all
no, slavery has never
been a good thing. The BIPOC people? What the fuck is he talking about?
That's what he's saying. Yeah, that's what
the people he mentioned and used as examples are people that were never slaves as well.
I'm having a fucking migraine. I'm very sorry because I mean I try to watch the news, and the only way I can watch the news is by watching on cable TV now, like all the rest of the boomers up there. But I'm not a boomer yet. But yeah, it's very resonating. The stuff that we're talking about tonight, it's like right up my alley. Like Chaz said, I wish he was still here.
I wish he was too.
But yeah,
this was shared to like 300 groups, and this is gonna be seen
everywhere. So. Yeah, but slavery, an interesting quirky fact here, education time, kids. In 1834, slavery was abolished in the British Kingdom, basically the United Kingdom around the world, right? And then for some reason it took 31 years for the same abolishment to be passed in America. Why that is, I don't know. You guys can help me fill me in with that, but basically there was liberals that were going in and fighting for our rights and saying, hey man, BIPOC people are human too. And of course they'll have some government resistance from the conservative Republican Christo nationalist type people that didn't think we were human beings until the late 60s. Or they still don't, but I mean they were told that and they probably still don't believe that.
Just a little bit of history. The last city in the United States that to end slavery was Galveston, Texas. Once that happened, that was the Emancipation Day.
Well,
what were we saying?
What people don't realize, because we were told that the Revolutionary War that created the United States was because of taxation. No, that's a lie. It was because there was talk of banning the sale of slaves in the protectorates. That was the beginning of it. So they fought to be independent because they didn't want to lose the right to buy and trade in slaves. Because at the time of the Revolutionary War, they were starting to speak about ending the slave trade and putting a limit on the slave trade of how many Africans could be brought out of Africa and how you could only sell slaves that had been born in the Caribbean or North America. So there's the whitewashing of the Revolutionary War.
that people don't talk about. So it wasn't just 30 years after the banning of slavery in the British Isles and the British Kingdom that this came about. It's almost 100 years later. In fact, more than 100 years later, that they banned slavery in the United States because the economy of the South would have gone completely down the toilet without the African labor for free. And we were sending all that cotton where? To Manchester, England. Manchester, England, England, where they had all the cotton mills.
Yeah, a lot of this structure is built on what they call capitalism, and an argument is Adam Smith and his Wealth of Nations, even though he ended up working with the government to tax firms in the UK. So the philosophy of capitalism is definitely problematic because it capitalizes without regard for the ecosystem, without regard for children's rights, without regard for human and civil rights for the most part. And so unless capitalism is reevaluated, as well as democracy, because the first democracies supposedly were in Athens and women couldn't vote and slaves couldn't vote, and the majority still ruled. So what about a minority group that have a very great position about the ecosystem or about females or about yada, yada, yada? That group's voice will not really be heard because the majority wins in democracies. And capitalism itself, of course, is not a political system. It's a financial system. But what people do, say, oh, well, socialism is not just financial. You comparing capitalism to socialism, do you know how different they are? Not just in spelling. And the cotton gin, people
apples and oranges.
Yeah, very, very different. And then most nations that claim to be socialist aren't.
Right.
So then they say, well, what about
they may be
Nation X?
social democratic, but not socialist.
Yes. And so you say, well, let's look at the definition for socialism. Does Nation X fit that definition? No. So then you can't use this in your argument. And people often find statistical outliers to validate erroneous arguments. Well, one black person in a million says that the Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas makes sense. Well, what about the 999,999 others? Well, they're just lazy. Oh, so now the lazy argument. Yeah, it's amazing. The smarter people get with truth, the less likely they are to say dumb things. And the Florida governor definitely isn't very educated, I think. Thanks.
No, he's not. And
He's
if
not.
you tried to ask him
Too-late.
for the definition of any word, he would be hard pressed to give you one. And I doubt he could give you one even if he had a dictionary in front of his face.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we could talk all night about DeSantis and his fight with Disney and everything
Well,
else.
he's part of
Oh,
the system, isn't he?
jeez.
Implications in school,
You know,
school systems.
that's like that's killing the golden goose. And
The Don't Say Gay bill.
come on now. That's insane and ridiculous.
Yeah.
And anybody with any common sense is leaving the state.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate in a way, because you need to have somebody that's got some brains down there to keep them in check. But it gets tiring after a while when you're surrounded by these fascist bigots that just think your very existence on the face of this planet is an affront to them, that you shouldn't even be breathing.
Well, so hey guys, we talked about. I don't know if you guys did talk about history quite a bit. You guys are ready to move on to another subject. So
We can talk about the indoctrination of discovery if you want, because I've talked about it, but we can review it if you want. Quite basically,
okay.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, we can talk about that. I was gonna say a different subject, but whatever.
No. Well, we can do it later. I mean, I thought I don't know where we are in the subject list. You're the quarterback. You're the captain, dude. So you tell me.
Oh, it's the rest of it is about like social media, basically. So comparing the
Okay.
public's reaction, Ricky Cobb versus George Floyd. So why is the public reaction so much smaller now with Ricky Cobb than it was with George Floyd? If does anybody want to talk about
Because
that?
of
We're desensitized.
the ongoing division.
Well,
You
it's
know,
part of living in a country where I'm not allowed to watch the news down there. And that makes me really creeped out because I haven't seen anything at all in the Canadian news networks that are the only ones that are doing news up here now. Showing anything about the Ricky Cobb case. I don't know anything about it whatsoever. So they are literally putting us in the dark up here in Canada and probably in other countries and around the world. And I want to know why.
Did you hear about George Floyd in Canada? That was my question.
Almost right away. It was
Okay.
getting around in the news because it was getting spread on all the news networks in the United States. And when that happened, when that case started, there was tons and tons of coverage because there was protests all over the country. Yeah, we got a lot of information. I learned a lot from learning that there was different groups out there. I didn't realize that there was so many chuds and internet trolls. I didn't realize there was so many people that actually back up police the way they do, and they try to justify killing a person by saying, he's a drug addict or he's a criminal or whatever, right? When George Floyd literally needed medical help. I'm not sure if my brother did because I wasn't there and I wasn't in Vancouver, probably having a mental health crisis. And a lot of our BIPOC people have mental health crises. So what do? Somebody calls the cops. What else does the system do? They send some heavies down to do what they do. And you guys already know what happened. So, and then, like I said, this certain case here, Ricky Cobb, isn't covered up here at all, which I find really disturbing. Like, I'm hoping this Monday or this week, somebody will, pretend to care for human beings up here and start, sending the information where it needs to go, right? Like, it's very, very creepy and disgusting to me that the media likes to buffet, uh, um, human suffering,
We didn't see.
They'll cover what they're paid to cover, and then when they're not paid for it, or there's a government that wants to, cash cow everything to the Canadian media sites, like it confuses and it also upsets me. Like, why aren't we covering this stuff? We all have a right to know. The media does not have a right to tell us what we're allowed to check out and cover. With exception to the hate speech and all that other right-wing shit. And I don't want to get into that. But, the media and the governments have no right to block us and to put us into lanes and to tell us, hey, you're not allowed to check that news out, or we're not going to cover that because we don't want to have riots. Well, we're going to find out one way or another.
Right.
Hey, the riots that they are concerned about.
Protests, sorry.
Well, yeah, even the protests are normal for humans in a situation where they find it not tenable to survive. So America had protests and riots, which created America. Throughout Western Europe, they had protests and riots. France had it, but when marginalized communities tried to avail themselves of the same privileges and opportunities, the majority community tends to vilify them, like what's happening in Niger right now, where the people of Niger want to be free of French domination, because what happened was the independence movement for the Black majority nations was really a public relations stunt where puppets were put in place who were dark-skinned, but who still had in the Caribbean a governor general, who still had the Queen of England as the head of state. So how are you independent if you have a separate little nation where the governor general lives and his land is sovereign to the Queen of England inside Jamaica, inside the Bahamas, inside Barbados, even though Barbados made a big move recently, of course, and kicked them out. It seems, I hope that's true. I think that the media works for the advertisers. And so advertisers do not want issues about freeing certain people because the majority who spend money don't want to hear that. And the FCC and government regulation entities do not do their job. Same thing with the FDA when our food in America is so toxic. So yeah, our governments have failed by design. And I think our divisions seem like they'll be difficult to overcome because there aren't enough cross-party dialogues where Democrats, Republicans eventually have a chat over some pizza after these types of meetings. Because if we just the left, the right, and the middle, the world is done almost. So we got to do something. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, Donald Trump doesn't look like the type that the guy that wants to sit down and have pizza and act in a professional or a bipartisan way, or even in a proper political way with the Democratic liberals. Like, I just don't see him having the frame of mind to be able to do that. Sorry.
Well, Biden is slightly better. I think two-party systems are good cop, bad cop. So the Democrats provide more chicken wings for Black, Indigenous people of color, but they also perpetuate some laws that also extract wealth and create the crack epidemic, etc. You know, both parties. I'm more Democratic, but I think we need a third viable party. We're moderates, and you would find moderates that are Republicans, moderates that are Democrats that would come to the table and at least provide the public with another perspective. So yeah, two basketball teams would not be good.
There was another party in 2020 that gained a little bit of traction. It was called the Libertarian Party. It was kind of like exactly what you're talking about, but from both sides where they meshed together. It just didn't work out too well.
Very quickly, the libertarians are good for white people, meaning the libertarians brought to the table the rights to be free to express yourself regardless of Republican, Democratic. But for Black people, we need more empowerment. We need reparations. We need certain things that the Libertarian Party doesn't support. We need an alternative to the Libertarian Party for liberals who still see some value in certain foundations in the Republican side, because some of their stuff does make sense, but most of it is hogwash. So maybe a 4-party system, but we need more. Thanks.
Well, I live in a 3-party system in Canada. I'd hate to shoot your idea down. Sounds great. Not any better. There's 3 idiots that we have to choose from. No offense. Lesser of 3 evils. You get to choose the new Democratic Party, which is called it's formerly the Socialist Party up here. We've got the Conservatives, which is the right that, you know, as Jim said, some of these parties favor advantage the non-Indigenous. And then we have the good old liberals, which like to preach lies too. They provide chicken wings, but they also talk about doing things that they don't even follow through with when they get voted in. So remember, guys, when you smoke the peace pipe, don't fucking tell me and my Indigenous people any lies, especially when we're going to vote you in and you say you're going to do some stuff for the Indigenous people and then you don't do it at all. Sounds a little crooked, doesn't it?
Yes.
Hey, David, very quickly, I'm not suggesting that the solution would be perfect, but if you ask most Black people that do research whether Canada is a better place for Black people than America, many would admit that Canada is. In fact, many of the slaves went to Canada because you all provided a more realistic approach to our treatment. Not that there wasn't the murder of a lot of Indigenous people and Native children's graves are still being found. But a 3 or 4 party system would at least open, I think, the door to more logic and practicality and not having to choose between the good cop, bad cop. But ultimately, a better party system would have to be in place that's beyond the 2, 3, 4 party system, where we wouldn't have to be so galvanized against each other. Thanks for your update.
Yeah, awesome. No, that's great. That's a great idea. But like I said, in response, having 4 talking heads or 3 or 2, that's not what's going to change the system in the view of the Indigenous people. We need a political party that's telling the truth, that does what they're going to say after they get voted in, they get the recommendations followed through. And yeah, I'm just sort of frustrated that there's hardly any change. It's really, really hard in Commonwealth countries like Canada. I'm not sure how the United States is, but I'll compare it. Like our population is 10 times smaller, but it's so hard up here to reform laws, and I'm very certain it's the same way in the United States to pass laws for change for humanity. And as we mentioned earlier in the show, there's marginalized communities that are trying to stand up for themselves. I think Jimmy said that, and they get into big trouble. And the political right, I would say, go out and say, "Oh no, 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 no! You're not going to cause trouble in my neighborhood." And then out comes the pepper spray and the protest porn, is what some of our comrades call it. But yeah, during COVID, there was a lot of protest porn. Right? We've all watched lots of it. Eh, Sue?
Hey, David, is it possible that you know best the Canadian perspective, and what I'm suggesting would work well for people of color in America, and you may not know it because you don't live here?
Not at all. No, I don't even recommend what America needs to do. You Americans need to figure that out. I've got Canada to deal with. I've got plenty of territory to spread some change around up here. I'm living in the dark ages right now. About a week ago, the Canadian government had passed a law where, Meta basically can't show any news. So Matt has sent me a bunch of news articles. It says attachment unavailable, attachment unavailable. So basically right now I'm living in a Russia type state where I'm in the dark ages. I'm only allowed to check out the Canadian media on TV. I can watch the American stuff, but what I'm trying to say is my choice to put on what I want on my fucking pizza is starting to get taken away. Because if I want to check out the news on Facebook, I should be allowed to. But because I live in Canada and some lobbyists had decided to give the cash cow to all the Canadian media outlets, I'm basically being forced to go where they're telling me where to go. And I really don't like fucking mind control.
I mean, that's when a good VPN would come in handy. Just by the way, so you can basically say that you're from America while living in Canada using the VPN. You just gotta change your IP address, but it might work. It might work. It might not. I don't know.
Well, some of you may not know that Indigenous people in Canada and America are dual citizens. So technically, I'm an American living in Canada. Well, a person with dual citizenship. So you guys know another educational fact there. If you're an Indigenous person and you live in Turtle Island and you're indoctrinated into one of these empires, you can become, or you are a dual citizen of America and Canada. And the reason why that is because some of our territories, they run in Canada and then they actually run into the United States, which is a complete nightmare. I don't even want to get into that. It's tearing families apart because some of the tribes are trying to reconnect and people are trying to move home back to their country, right? Just like any of you would want to go home to your family and your country and be with your people, right? Well, some people aren't allowed to do that. The case based on the laws right now, but another episode, I don't want to get into it.
Well, okay. So the last subject had to do with social media's influence on police brutality and how people use social media to spread like police brutality videos and showing what's happening as well. We can talk about that, or we can talk about another subject. Basically, the role of social media in police brutality. We can talk about that or something else, whatever you guys would like.
Hey, just
No, if it's on the list, let's do it.
Can I just quickly ask David, are Native Indians in Canada U.S. citizens, or do they have the right to employment and jobs in America, but it excludes them as citizens unless they go through the naturalization process?
No, it's just like basically dual citizenship, just like anybody that's, I don't know, if you're a citizen of the UK and you're born in Canada, or something like that. Your parents are from the UK, you're a dual citizen. Basically, I have a Indian status card. I think they have them in the United States, but it's to show that I'm from a certain tribe. And when I go across the border, I can basically use that as a passport. I don't think I'm answering your question. I don't know anything about that stuff. It's too complex. You're gonna have to ask immigration. Maybe Immigration Canada would have an answer for that.
Because you all
But I
probably
can apply
can't
for
vote,
work. I
right?
can fast track work if I wanted to go to the United States, yes, because I could use my dual citizenship status and maybe access work faster than people applying for a green card. Like, I don't know. You've put some thought into me moving to the United States, and Soup has also suggested it, and I'm also considering it.
Yeah, as far as I know, you all have the right to cross the border, work, etc., but not voting rights because you wouldn't be citizens of America. You would be, you have a treaty, and that treaty, because of what you expressed, the land isn't a straight line. Native tribes, First Nations, obviously have rights to the land based on the treaty, but unfortunately, I think because of biases, these types of things aren't discussed. Thanks for that feedback.
It's hard for Americans to get into Canada. Harder for Americans to get into Canada than it is for Canadians to get into America, basically.
Unless you're Indigenous. If you're an Indigenous American, you're granted the same dual citizenship to come into our country as we are to go down there. But like, it's very complex. Do not say Dave Moon TV is an expert and start spreading to all your platforms that I said this and that. I don't have any clear answer on a lot of these questions other than what I said. You know, I can go across the border with my Indian status card. I could show the border guy, and then he'd basically accept that as similar to a passport. And then I could go across and go visit my family. Say, for instance, I had a tribal family down there and I could go hang out. But no, I could not vote, I believe. I'm not certain about that law. Again, you're going to have to call the immigration in the US or in Canada and ask them. That's an interesting question. I might phone them Monday morning. I'm kidding. I won't phone them Monday morning. And if I'm able to vote in the United States, cool. I mean, who would I vote for? The party that will get stuff done, so I can stop hearing on the news where there's moms burying their children, people in marginalized communities getting treated differently than other citizens. And like Jimmy said, some of these countries are claiming to be socialist. Okay, well, where's the socialism?
Yeah, so Jimmy
Canada's one of
put into the chat under the treaty and corresponding legislation, Native Indians born in Canada are entitled to freely enter the United States for the purpose of employment, study, retirement, investing, and/or immigration.
Well, there you have it. Dave Moon TV endorses it if it's properly verified.
All right, so let's talk about the social media's influence on police brutality. The importance
Right,
of filming the police.
I was just going to get into that. Police brutality is a big issue. Over the George Floyd murder, that I've noticed there was so much support of the blue people. I may have my opinions differently because my brother was killed by police, but that's my own personal view. When it comes to public safety, I'm critical about that. I'm very shocked to see that there's a lot of bots or real accounts out there that are supporting the law in ways that are they're claiming to justify murdering people. Because George Floyd was murdered. My brother was murdered. It wasn't because the police claimed to be in danger. They chased him into the alley. So anyhow, like I said, it's just really disgusting that there are some people out there that thinks it's okay to injure BIPOC people or any people in that matter. If it's not a BIPOC person, they'd say, oh, well, they lived in marginalized community. Oh, they're a criminal. Oh, they're a drug addict. Yada, yada, yada. Excuse. I am surprised that nobody's told me that about my brother's case. You know, oh, he was a drug addict. Oh, he was mentally disabled or something like that. Like, it's probably going to come eventually, because I'm not surprised if it's out there. And I see posts talking about victims and their families, which is also disgusting. It's very, very toxic. I see why a lot of people don't use social networking, especially when you're a victim of a family. It's the last place you want to get support, because a lot of it's just a lot of evil conjecture sent out there on the internet, and it's hurtful and it's harmful, and these are the people I label as trolls and chuds, because that's what they are. They like to troll, they like to lie, they like to spread misinformation, and they love it when they hurt people's feelings. And this is very hurtful and harmful to me to see this type of treatment from one human being to another. Where's the humanity, Soup?
So it's like a double-edged sword. Honestly, I think social media can be a blessing and a curse. It's a double-edged sword. Like, imagine like what would happen if we didn't have social media. If we didn't have like, you know, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all these different social media platforms, and we had to rely on watching television or, you know, reading the newspaper to get our news. People would not be very well informed, you know, at all, and it would just be a few different media outlets owned by a few different people instead of what we have now, where, you know, like this podcast, we have people speaking from their own thoughts, and we're not controlled by any corporations.
Exactly.
So I feel like it's good, because we know so much now about what's happening out there in the world.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it can be, I don't know, it can be bad too. Social
Well,
media has its downfalls.
I thank those individuals that were on social media when George Floyd was murdered, because I don't know if there would have been the justice that there was. We still have lots of work
Without
to
them.
do. Like like Frank said, this isn't a victory. This is just a small little tiny half a step
This is
forward.
the
Not
beginning.
even that. Just the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, is that you,
If
Clarissa?
it wasn't for those
Yep.
people, I don't know if this case would have been the way it was, because most of the evidence was from the social media camera work from some of the people that were there, and I commend all of their work.
Here's a big question and it wasn't on the list. What can we do to reduce the amount of police brutality in the future?
Hey, I think one way is via social media. So when we look at a term, the gun, human, social media, social media could have been SneakerNet back in the day, where we shot footage and we sent it to our colleagues and we shared it via a message board or etc. Facebook and these other social media utilize the phrase, but aren't really social. I've been blocked and shadow banned for simply sharing African history. I've gotten and some of you also, you're going against terms of service. It's hate speech. The fact checkers, I guess they're fact checkers,
Oh
are
my
also known
God.
as the KKK. Who are your fact checkers? You know? So to stop police brutality, I think one way is to actually have a separate social media that isn't so limiting in scope and that will allow actual free speech. There are a few, one a young African guy created, but some Native Indians could also create one. And all these groups could talk about police brutality. So First Nations social media, and Apache, Comanche, Navajo social media, a ADOS, then a Pan-African. In other words, all our groups should have our own social media, just like this right here. This is in a way a type of social media. And then we go together once a month, for example, and say, okay, regarding police brutality, what info have you shared? And we may say, well, that's inaccurate. Here's what happened in America. And you all may say, well, that's not really reflective of the Canadian or the Jamaican experience. And then we put a press release together where we say, on behalf of group XYZ that represents the marginalized, police brutality has proven to be X in Canada, Y in California, Z in the Caribbean, etc. and how it's affected women. I don't think we have the corporate minds and the skill set, but we haven't applied it to this movement significantly. So we have corporate jobs, some of us, or we negotiate deals. And then in our movement, it's loosey, willy-nilly. You know, it's kind of, okay, let's get together. You all have been in other meetings. We have coffee and we have great discussion, but we don't have the statistics. We don't run the charts, you know, where we say, okay, what's the trend line here? Meanwhile, the alphabet boys, etc., everyone else has a corporate machine with funding, by the way. Whoever put the meeting together here, that would have gotten about $5,000 for this meeting. So you say, oh, shoot, I'm in good shape, instead of taking it out of your pocket. Yeah, so to defeat police brutality, we need an infrastructure. And until then, I don't know if police brutality will become a thing of the past. Thanks for listening.
Well, there needs to be better training in the northern Scandinavian countries in Europe. They have to go to 2.5 to 3 years of police university classes, and they have to pass with good grades and pass a psychological evaluation before they can become a police officer. And then they start out as a probationary officer for a certain amount of time before they become a permanent one. So, you know, when you look at, you know, for example, my hometown, they have, I think it's a 16-week police academy for police officers. And my hometown runs the regional police academy that trains all the new recruits for several counties here in southeastern Michigan. And, you know, they make money by doing that. The local community college makes money by offering classes that these recruits have to take as well. So, you know, there's training in place, but it's not adequate. And it certainly doesn't provide any kind of training to assist people in domestic violence situations, to assist people in mental health crisis situations, to assist people in a health and welfare check situation. And if you think about all or most of the situations where you have someone who meets with injury at the hands of the police, it's usually during one of these three situations. And if you have someone who has little training, understanding, sympathy, empathy, or desire to help, and they're the ones that show up and they're the ones that are supposed to help, there's a problem. We need to find a way to respond to the non-police calls that the police go on, so that they are only responding to theft, property, assault, murder, to crimes, not for mental or physical or any other kind of welfare check, because they have proven themselves not only inadequate, but downright backwards and, you know, violently unhelpful. And we need to ask for better and get better. The current system is not going to provide these things. That's why that system needs to change. And I say that with having 2 police officers in my family and knowing several police officers because of that family connection. So, you know, I heard the N word most frequently from my uncle, who's a retired police officer. And he lived outside of the city of Flint when it was required that you live in the city of Flint in order to work for the city. Because he didn't want his kids to grow up in Flint. But he was happy enough to take the city of Flint paycheck and use our address as his address for his city employment the whole time he was working for the city.
I didn't know you were in Michigan. Denise, who was on the show earlier, also lives in
Oh yeah, I'm in Michigan, Flint,
Okay.
Michigan. Why do you think I said there's something in the water?
Right.
Michigan well represented here.
Yeah, I guess so.
Flint PFAS. PFAS, the forever chemical.
Yeah, I totally agree with your talking point there. The needing more training. In other countries, they get that training, but here in the United States, they don't get nearly as much training as they do in other countries.
For 16 weeks.
Yeah,
4 months.
It's absolutely
That's so
insane.
inadequate. You
Yeah.
know, that's a military boot camp, is what it is. It is military boot camp.
Oh, a comment. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and when you have the fact that, you know, the police force in the United States, I don't know about Canada, but I would suspect it's similar there, has become more and more militarized over the years, especially with you know, surplus army equipment being put on the street. I remember going to 4th of July fireworks about 5 or 6 years ago. And they had just gotten a brand new tank for the city of Flint.
Oh wow!
And they drove it down to where, you know, near where the fireworks were going to be had, where there was a big open parking lot big open green space where people were parking to watch the fireworks. And they pulled into the middle of this lot and weren't careful to make sure that they had a way to get out, and they got parked in. So that kind of amused me to no end, because, you know, if they had had a call and had to leave in that tank to go and actually respond to something in that vehicle, they wouldn't have been able to go anywhere.
Yeah, that's
without running over some cars and damaging property.
That just seems comical to me. Like honestly, like
yes, I laughed. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, what's the point?
Yeah,
what is the point?
That's absolutely insane. Oh, so there's a comment on here. It says when cops get sued for police brutality, the settlement should come from their pensions, not paid by the city. So, that's like if they get sued, it should come from their own pockets. That's what Sharon said. So, I don't know. How do you guys feel about that?
They should have to carry personal liability insurance like doctors, so that if they get sued, then their insurance has to pay on it. And if, you know, they keep having multiple payouts from their insurance company, their insurance can go, oh no, no, we won't insure you anymore. And if they can't be insured, they can't work.
That's great. And also, I think that there's a contradiction. Law enforcers that break the law. So if the law enforcers can break the law, then why are they mad at other people for selling loose cigarettes? If law enforcers can park anywhere, even when they're getting donuts, they can run red lights, they can choke people, then that's like, I play chess. That's like me saying I'm the referee at a chess competition, but I'm using the rules of basketball. And people would look and say, bro, this is chess. So the contradiction has to be filled, but I don't think the system wants to fill that contradiction with logic. For example, police officers that come from the community. So if I see Johnny, I know Johnny has a knife, but that's my boy. I'm like, Johnny, what the hell is wrong with you? Yo, man, this and that. I'm like, put that knife down. Okay, uncle. Instead, people come who don't know about Ma'at or Ma'afa or the Olmecs
Mhm.
or the Trails of Tears, multiple, and they see melanated people simply as thugs or sexual objects. So clearly their decisions are not based on logic or history. And then it's compounded by military personnel with PTSD coming into law enforcement and seeing people that remind them of the enemy in Muslim nations and say, okay, yeah, I shot 2 today, or I shot 1 today, or I choked someone out. Yeah, it's by design, though. Unless the grassroots rise up and fix this, it won't be fixed. The problem is Black Lives Matter, crushed. Occupy Wall Street, crushed. All the movements that started, Black Panthers, crushed. Gray Panthers, crushed. All those movements died off, and we create something
All of
new.
them infiltrated by the
Yeah.
government
Yeah.
and purposely tanked. Every single one of them. The only reason that we didn't have any Black Lives Matters leaders and other movement leaders recently, more blatantly killed, like the ones that were killed during the civil rights era, is because there's more of us paying attention with cameras and videos and getting out there and asking tough questions if things happen to people. Not that they're being held accountable for it, but we're asking the questions anyway.
That's very true, Clarissa. Thanks for putting that. I wanted to say your name. I didn't know it. Sorry. And there's a big disconnect between flying to Mars and what's happening on the planet. So we have police brutality, we have homeless people, we have women that are being brutalized in the home, we have racism, but yet we have the funds to go to another, planet. There's something wrong.
Yeah, we have missing and murdered Indigenous women
Yeah.
that are disappearing from the Central Plain states around the man camps for all the wells and fracking sites where they're extracting oil that is the dirtiest oil to get. But hey, we're not talking about that either, are we?
Yeah, we're doing line 5, line 3.
Yeah.
Sorry, Clarissa, do you mean that around some of the mine camps, there's an opportunity for income and some marginalized women are kind of like during war, going there to generate? Are you suggesting that around those? Sorry.
There's a lot of sex work where there's single men and no women. That's reality of life, period. Okay. So when you create a situation where you have hundreds, if not thousands of men who are living away from their significant others for weeks, months, years at a time, you're creating an environment that encourages sex work. And when you have poor and marginalized individuals who live close to those man camps, what do you think is going to happen? And if you're such an individual as is inclined to be a murderous rapist, what's the perfect place to go hide? Where's the perfect place to go hide? Because they're not going to find you and they're not looking for them.
There's a place in Alberta that has a lot of different oil sands and again, dirty oil again. And yeah, it's just opportunity. And some of I'm not saying, people that work at the oil fields are all evil people. Of course not. No, most people are pretty generally good people. But out of the in the darkness, you don't know who's doing this type of stuff, and they're soaked in this evil Kool-Aid that think what you said, Clarissa, that Indigenous people are not human beings, and there's a whole bunch of men, 10 guys in one room's kind of crowded for me. But like I said, it's a dangerous opportunity here, and in Alberta that kind of stuff happens. There's also another Trail of Tears in between BC and Alaska, and basically we don't know who's murdering Indigenous women, but there's somebody out there murdering people, particularly Indigenous women in between Alaska.
There's more than one. There's got to be more than one. because
Yeah.
unless you got somebody that's going back and forth between the United States and Canada. And see, that's another thing too, because the indigenous women south of the border, down in Juarez and El Paso, are also being murdered. The ones working at the maquiladoras that work second and third shift, that ride the buses home and have to walk a mile from their last bus stop to get to their house because that's where they live. And they have to do that in the middle of the night. And they're walking through the area where they're finding all the women's bodies dumped.
It's sounding to me like we need to do another indigenous rights podcast because we did. Yeah, we did.
We can spend a few more hours if you want, Soup.
We did
You
that
know it.
last season. We did that last season. Yeah, it sounds like.
But I think we were talking about police officers. I think you guys were talking about it earlier.
Yeah, police
Takes about 6
brutality.
months. Yeah, well, 6 months it takes to become a police officer up here. I'll fill you guys in so we can compare the countries. Basically, there isn't really a Fed police force that's down there. There is, but basically
That's
we're
the
run
FBI.
we're only run by the RCMP, which is a national police force. What I'm trying to explain is it's like somebody you're calling Washington, for instance, right? And you live in a state, right? And they'd probably say this: "Oh, it's not our problem. Hang up on you." Or up in Canada, you'd call the capital up here, call the RCMP, and say, "Hey, there's a problem in British Columbia," right? They don't know anything about fucking British Columbia or even how to solve problems, if you get what I mean, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just a crappy version of a police system that was created originally to monitor Indigenous and BIPOC people, protect the Klondikers, and whatever else the British Crown felt was justified to do to BIPOC people. And it doesn't take much to be a police officer. 6 months is, I'll agree with Clarissa. I don't think 6 months is enough. I think you need to go to the European style there, where you got to run through the ranks and earn your badge, right? And then prove to the police force, because I know this is probably what they're doing, right? Well, I know, but they're making sure that these people and these cadets are accountable and they can be trusted, right? And they're not just going to throw them in a marginalized community on their first shift. They're going to make sure that they're trained properly. So maybe we can train them so they're trained properly. They're more of aware of what they're able to do. We need to see less people getting pinned down and choked. And like somebody said earlier, I can't remember who it was, but I think it was Jimmy. They come from a war situation, and some maybe with PTSD and maybe not. And I'm not saying anything about mental health, people. Don't come after me about that. I just don't know if being a police officer is a good idea if you just got back from Iraq and you've been, soaking in that Kool-Aid juice and you actually believe BIPOC people aren't human because you just pinged a few off before you came back home, and now you're in the middle of a beat after, I don't know, what did Clarissa say? How many weeks does it take to be a police officer in America?
12.
16 in my
16.
municipality. I don't know about anywhere else. I just know here in Flint, our regional police academy is 16 weeks.
Yeah,
4 months.
6 months up here. 6 months up here, and
That's
it's
4 months.
still not long enough.
4 weeks, 4 months.
Yeah, well, they're just shelling them out, right? Because they just want them out there faster than
Right.
a clap of a hand or a snap of a finger. Let's go. Shell them out. Shell them out. We need police officers here, there. Let's go.
Right.
How much do you want to get paid? Here's your gun. Here's how to shoot one. If you have any problems, here's your radio. Call the sergeant and protect yourself at all times. That's the first thing they tell them, right? And that's why
It's a military
the first thing
model.
that they want to do is to pick up a weapon and protect themselves whenever they think that they can do it.
So, like, while we're talking, there was an officer-involved shooting tonight in Illinois.
Oh, geez. Of course there was.
There always is when we do an episode.
If you think about it, there's probably one every day. We just don't hear about it.
Right. Yeah.
Because they don't want you to know about it, because the media
Of course not.
wants
Because
to,
if you knew about it, you'd be mad about it.
And the phrasing is very odd. Officer involved. Imagine if someone had a gun and robbed the bank and they said a bank customer involved robbery. So right off the bat, our minds for
Right.
many of us are conditioned to think, okay, officer was involved, but the officer is probably good. I think that with our police, they're looking at the wrong people. They should be looking at Wall Street. They should be looking at the mega mansions. But instead, what happens is the focus is put liquor in certain communities, put lots of cops, and don't put programs in place such as mentoring, such as mental health, such as financial literacy. And of course, you're going to catch a lot of people. Where I live in New York City, in the richer communities, there are very few cops stopping people who jump the turnstile that don't pay. In the hood,
Right.
they're hiding
They're
from the
there all the
rafters like
time. They're waiting
Spider-Man.
for you.
Yeah.
They're waiting for you, watching on the
Yeah.
cameras.
Yeah.
But I mentioned
I see,
earlier.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. That I was watching a video about an economist talking about how the world economy basically depends on the oppression of the African continent, the entire continent, where they cannot have the economy proceed in the manner that it is now without maintaining the extreme poverty of most Africans living in Africa. And they're doing this on purpose economically because they depend on the rare earth minerals like cobalt and iridium and gold and platinum to make electronics and other first world products that most Africans can't afford. And then that's just the tip of the iceberg, because then, we got to start talking about chocolate and coffee and diamonds and a bunch of other things. It is the richest resource of natural resources on the face of the planet, if you think about it, because the landmass of Africa is almost as much as the whole rest of the landmass put together, though you don't really get that when you look at a map or a globe. And if you think that there's something wrong with oppressing an entire continent in order to maintain the first world life of the rest of the planet, then you have to do something about it. And you can't just sit back and say, oh, well, I'm just one person. You have to talk about it. You have to be an activist. You have to say, I'm not going to live like this. I'm not going to let it happen the way it's happening now. I'm not going to participate in the system because the system is the problem.
That's right. Matt, I can sense that your wheels are turning, and I know you're going to weigh in and you're going to shine right about now.
Yeah, exactly. You have to say that, I'm not going to take what this system's trying to give us. You have to take a stand. Otherwise, you're just being part of the business that they try to maintain over each and every one of us.
And that's what it's all about, is business, the economy, the maintaining of the capitalist system. And I haven't had a chance to look into this, but apparently there's a big economic bust that's occurring in China, with a huge 24% drop in the housing market and other stuff going on. So, they say it's making everything wonderful for everyone. But, as much as China likes to say they're communists, they're not communists anymore. They're capitalists. They've been for a long time. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been trading with the West. So right. If an economy of over 1 billion people crashes by 24% in one market, that's just the first domino in that country. And once they all start tumbling, it's going to get around to the rest of us. And we need to figure out that the future for this planet, for the benefit of all of us, is that we need to provide for everybody's basic needs out of the wealth that's produced from this planet. And we can't allow billionaires to exist like human dragons, hoarding resources and profits to the detriment of the rest of the planet.
Hey guys, thank you. I think we might wrap up pretty soon.
Yeah, it's been 3 hours, guys, and I think we've hit everything, right? I don't like to leave not hitting everything, and I think we hit everything, and that makes me happy. And if you guys are all happy with it, I'm happy with this show. We're going on to 3 hours. Captain Soup, Clarissa, Jimmy, Matthew.
It was a fun ride, guys.
Yeah.
But
hey, thank you. I'll send you all a rough chart and table that I generated from some of the themes mentioned. And it doesn't have trend lines or anything, but it'll give kind of an idea of the themes covered and the quantity of times. And in closing, thank you all so much. I'm very big on numbers, statistics, analysis of data, because what the system does is it does it and then applies it to us. And then we don't know what's going on often because we haven't looked at the data. So a lot of our ad hoc responses, I don't think succeed because the analysis on a military or a strategic level in our community is we're loving, empathetic people. It's superficial, yeah. But so we're all love and peace and, you know, all the good stuff. And they're very analytical about how do we oppress them. So yeah, thank you all.
Thank you.
Well, the government has a special, you know, bureau. It's called the Census Bureau. That's all they do is collect data on each and every single one of us here in the United States.
And in Canada, they have a census up here. They say it's for programs, but who gets the programs? Who gets the pie when it gets chopped up and put out there? The marginalized communities? I don't know. I think they get a tiny little slice of it. And then the other 99% of it goes to the corporate elites and the government workers and their blue servants that do a shit job protecting the public. I'm finished. I'm going to lose my mind here.
All right. Matthew, did you want to say anything else before we
No, I'm good. I enjoyed everyone talking tonight. I enjoyed the viewpoints everyone had, and they all seemed to mesh together pretty well.
Thank you guys for all allowing me to hang out with you. If you want to add me on Facebook or any other platform, I'll be willing to discuss any of this further. And hopefully there's an after party. See you guys later.
All right. See ya.